back-to-back property strategy. So why use this creative property strategy? Well, you have a minimum of £10,000 plus profits. It's quick transactions, usually 30 to 45 days. You don't need to complete on the property, get a loan, etc., put any of your own cash down with this unique method. You can agree, as an example, a purchase price with a motivated seller for 100,000 and then match it up with a buyer, a cash buyer for 120,000 and net the £20,000 difference without the buyer ever actually signing a fee agreement whatsoever, because this method is not a fee agreement. It's simply a transaction where you're reselling the contract. Also, with this back-to-back method, you can exchange and immediately flip into auction and take the profits without needing to complete on the property. The downside with this is you need to put 10% deposit, usually down, so it's a little bit more advanced, but you can also use these methods to do that as well without ever actually completing on the property. So what is it? Well, the back-to-back strategy starts with A, B, and C. So A is a motivated seller that owns the property, like any property sourcing strategy. It's the same method. B is going to be you as the middleman or middle lady. Let's just say, for example, this 3-bedroom semi-detached house, you agreed at £230,000 and you agreed a quick sale to help this homeowner sell quickly for a number of different reasons. Then you turned around to a buyer on your list or someone that had a buyer like myself or someone in our network that ended up purchasing the property from you for 240,000. So there's an A to B transaction, which is you with the motivated seller. And then there's the B to C transaction with the cash buyer. Rather than you buying the house for 230,000 and getting paid, having to pay stamp duty and solicitor fees and so on, you can simply control it and then back-to-back the sale, simultaneously taking your margin, which is a £10,000 profit. So other people in the industry call this a sub-sale. So as opposed to an assignment of a contract where the buyer basically knows the fee that you're going to be making, it's different because where a seller contracts to sell a piece of land or a property to an intermediate buyer, which is you as the middleman, who simultaneously, on the day of purchase, immediately sells it on to the ultimate buyer, which can be within 5, 10 minutes, an hour. Again, if you flip properties in auction using this method, it's usually within 2 to 4 weeks apart, but you never, even if you do that method, you never pay stamp duty. So if you Google "We Buy Home Companies" or "Sell House Fast," you will find many of these cash buying companies that say we can buy your properties quickly. And the reason why they can use that language of we can buy your properties quickly is because they actually can, because with the back-to-back method, you own the property, you exchange on it for less than 5 minutes or 10 minutes, which that's why this method is so powerful, because it's legal, it's powerful, the buyer never sees the fee you're going to be making, and people make tens of millions a year from these methods. So who does it help? A motivated seller, which is a homeowner or a tired landlord. They need a quick sale, or the house is old, outdated, and needs refurbishment. And then you're going to be matching that up with a willing, hungry investor that's looking for properties in the auction, or you just build your buyers list through social media marketing, and they are looking for properties in certain areas, which you're going to help source for them, and you're going to get paid handsomely for it. They're going to be buying, then refurbishing and refinancing, and then renting. This is called the BRRR method. I prefer to call it the BRRRR method, okay, where someone buys a house, renovates it, and then in 6 months gets a loan on that property and pulls the majority of their money back out so they can buy more property. So essentially getting a property for very little money or even free, right? So, hey, give me £1, I'll give you the £1 back, and I'll let you keep the property. That's how that works. But they might be flipping the property. So they're going to be buying, refurbishing, and then flipping for a profit. So how does it work? Well, the model, as I told you earlier, is A, B, and C. Your job is to find a motivated seller. Usually 2 to 3 bedroom houses that are semi-detached and terrace houses. It could also be bungalows. The more popular the type of house in the areas that you're picking, the better. Why? That means there's going to be more willing buyers looking to buy these properties as an investment. And usually 2 to 3 bedroom houses work very, very well for people that want to flip properties, because who are they flipping to? Usually first-time buyers, or they want to rent it out to families. So that product always works very, very well. You're going to agree the price, and then you're going to mark the property up. So here's a common question. If you sell this piece of property here, if you sell this piece of property here, right, for, let's just say you sell this for get rid of this, 250 or 260, would the buyer know the fee and profit you're going to be making? They wouldn't. Just like if you bought a property for 230 and sold it for 300, they don't care because the deal works for them. But they don't have to go through the palaver of signing a fee agreement. See, the traditional way property sourcing works is you find a £200,000 house, as an example, okay? Then what you would do is, let's just say it's a great deal for the investor, but they would essentially sign a fee agreement, which is usually going to be 2%, maybe 2.5% is a standard fee agreement. So you're going to get here probably £4,000 to £5,000. But in this case, you can also take this fee if you structure it correctly and take the margin. That's the power of the back-to-back transactions. Very powerful method. So here's how it works. Find a deal. You've got to start marketing to motivated sellers through online ads, classified marketing, even going for estate agents, partnering up with other property sources, ugly signs, Google ads, and so on. Target people looking for a quick sale or old, outdated houses. And make sure the product, which is the property that you're targeting, is semi-detached or terrace houses that are 2 to 3 bedroom. Don't do random farms in Portugal or detached homes. No, we want simple stock that investors are buying. The max price that I like to go up to is £250,000. That's a sweet spot for investors purchasing, especially when it's going to be as a cash buyer or they're using a bridging finance, otherwise known as a short-term loan. You get in, you get out. Except London. London has exceptions because London, you can't even freaking get a shed for less than £250,000. So London is very, very different. Once we've found the deal, we need to now secure the deal. Make a quick sale cash offer at a great price. Secure the deal that will work for your investor. Usually 20 to 25% off is a good start, but your investors might be willing to pay more, especially if it's a beginner investor or an investor that's not as seasoned. So figure out what they would buy it at and then figure out your offer accordingly. The offer that you're going to be making the seller is there's no legal fees, and we're buying the property as is. The legal fees will be covered by the end buyer. You're then going to sign an option to purchase agreement to secure and lock the deal in, so then you can do an inspection or send over a viewer to do a video inspection or a tour. That means that you're not going to waste your money if they're not serious about actually signing the agreement. It's a 30-day inspection agreement, but you don't have to have this signed to get the deal agreed. It's just good practice. Then what you're going to do once that's signed, immediately, what you want to do is you want to engage a back-to-back solicitor or a solicitor that specializes in sub-sales. Don't worry, we've got our power team in our community that you can reach out to get these deals done. And they will engage the seller like any sale. They will onboard them to make sure they, their passport, they get onboarded as a client. And then what will happen is they will take the steps of getting ready to move the property sale forward with the conveyancing. Okay, simultaneous to that, what you're doing with the B2C transaction is you're closing the deal simultaneously. And the way you do this is you go find a buyer. You promote the deal. What I like to do before I get a purchase agreed with one of my buyers, what I like to do is I like to say, what would you buy this piece of property at? And if they come back to me and said, I'd buy it at 250, I want to then try and secure it at 240,000. I like to think ahead in advance so I can move things forward. But if you don't have a buyer, don't hesitate. There's no risk to getting the deal agreed. So find a buyer, shop it around on social media, send it to us so we can put it out to our database, shop it around, get it out to the communities, reach out to other companies, and look to get the deal sold. But it's critical that the buyer can act with speed. It's critical that the buyer has a bridging finance loan set up. It's critical that they have proof of funding available and they're in the business to purchase properties quickly. You're going to package up and simply send over that deal to present the numbers. What will happen is they'll come back and go, I like the deal. You're going to explain to them that the process works like this and this is our standard, and if they don't follow it, they lose out on the deal. You're going to get a £1,500 non-refundable reservation fee to secure the deal. It takes it off the investor's market. Simultaneous to that, we can arrange inspections if they're serious. Okay, maybe they inspect before or they inspect after, depending on the buyer. I like 50-50. 50% will put a reservation fee down. It's non-refundable if the property isn't in the same condition that we advertised it as. But if they are serious and they know they can make a lot of profit with this property, they will move ahead and move that forward. Here's a pro tip. Write this down. Pro tip. I like to get a non-disclosure agreement signed with the buyer. I also like to tell the buyer we have this property under purchase agreement. So if there's any palaver or them trying to talk behind our back, that won't work, and we'll simply cut them out of future deals and we will be moving forward with our other buyers. It's very unlikely, but I always like to plant that seed. Take it from 12 years of experience. It works wonders. Then what you want to do is you want to ask them, are you going to use your own solicitor to complete on this property? Or would you like us to refer a solicitor that can act with speed? In fact, I always like to advise them to use one of our solicitors because they're faster and they can get the transaction moving forward. But I also like to control the sale. The reason why is because if they're a specialist fast sale solicitor and they specialize in back-to-back, what's going to happen is they're going to be able to move forward swifter, quickly. And the two solicitors, because this is very, very critical, there's two solicitors. There's a solicitor, which is A and B. Who is A and B? That's you and the intermediate. You're the middleman. You're sourcing the deal. You've got the solicitor closing one sale. And then you've got the B to C, which is another solicitor. That's basically, they're going to be buying the property from you. What they're really doing is buying your position, buying your contract. That's what essentially they're doing. Okay? The sale dates get agreed back to back alongside the A to B sale. So what on earth does that actually mean? Basically, if I'm going to buy a piece of property for £100,000 and I want to resell it to my brother that wants to buy it from me at 110,000, the traditional way is I would buy a house for 100 grand. I would pay the legal fees. Then I would pay the stamp duty. And then I would sell it to my brother and I would take the profit. But with this, it's exactly like that, but the sale is simultaneous. So I buy it for 100,000, but I immediately, within 5 to 10 minutes, get the transaction back to back. So I don't pay stamp duty. I have stamp duty relief and I don't have to put any cash down because my brother's money that brought the property ended up funding the A to B transaction. Type me if that makes sense. This is the beautiful thing about it. One last tip is if you are going to exchange and then put it into an auction, which isn't back to back because it takes about 2 weeks to 30 days. A quick tip that you want to do is you want to extend the completion date by 45 to 60 days to give yourself enough time. And it allows you to put it in a local auction or the next auction. But you can speak to an auctioneer and they will tell you, look, I think we can get this property sold and you can probably make 10 or 11 grand profit. And that's a great way. The downside of exchanging and putting it into auction is you have to put 10% deposit down. So you do have to put 10% deposit down. However, if it's a great deal that you can make money from, you want to go ahead and do that. It doesn't have to be your money. You can partner up with someone else in the community, in the group. You can partner as long as it's a good deal and it stacks. People will fund that to get the deal sold. Worst case scenario, you can have a backup bridging loan, but you would only transact on a deal like that if you know that you either have a few buyers lined up or the auctioneer has told you, look, I think we can get this house sold all day long. So very, very powerful. With that said, any questions, please go ahead and ask any questions that you have. And I've got your answers. So go ahead and ask any questions in the chat and I will be able to answer them for you. Do I need to put down the deposit if I'm back to backing? No, you don't have to. Some solicitors will tell you that you do, but the solicitors we're working with, you don't have to, because at the end of the day, what happens is it's basically like this, right? So if I could kind of draw this out for you, you know, you have the A, B, and C. So this is where it happens. So you've got the sale. This is the intermediate agreement. Is £100,000 purchase price. The seller doesn't know there's another buyer. Just like if you bought a piece of property and resold it a month later, they don't give a crap. They care about getting their price because that's what's been negotiated and that's what's been agreed and that's what they care about, okay? That's what they care about. So the solicitor is going to create what's called an intermediate contract, okay? And that is going to have an agreed date. Let's just say 30th of November, our goal is to get this property exchanged. And the way property completions work is to make any property legally binding, it has to exchange. Okay, so the contracts exchange on the 30th, but this is the A to B. Okay, so the A to B transaction, B is you as the middleman or middle lady, and A is the motivated seller. And what you've done is you've been basically matching up a buyer in the background that's going to buy the property for, say, £110,000. As an example, it could be more, it could be slightly less. Again, we've had clients do £80,000 deals. The average deal you can probably get away with is about 15 grand, but let's just say it's 10 for now. What you do is very simple. You're going to have an agreement where they're going to buy the property from you, okay, at 110,000. And what's going to happen is the solicitors are going to make sure that when the money is transferred over to buy the property, remember, how is the buyer committed? A lot of people go, how does this work? Well, think about this. The buyer is committed in a few ways. Let me tell you how they're committed. The buyer is committed in many ways. They've put down a non-refundable fee. I like to try and even get higher than this. I like to get a finder's fee plus, so of 2%. The minimum of 2 to 3 grand. So let's just say they pay me a £3,000 fee. That's non-refundable. So that commits them. Okay. So a £3,000 non-refundable fee. So they're committed. Also, what they're going to do is the solicitor is going to make sure that they line up their funds. So they wire in their funds into the solicitor bank account, like any sale. So the solicitor can basically transfer that over to their solicitor to make sure the property is exchanged and then completed. So for example, when you're buying a property, you put down that you exchange and usually it's 10% deposit. So on a 100 grand house, you would have a £10,000 down and then the property is complete usually within 30 days. But if it's a cash buyer and we're moving the sale forward quickly because our buyers our buyers know that they need to buy quickly because our sellers need a discount. So guess what happens? Is you're essentially going to get the completion and exchange. So when it exchanges, the completion will usually be within 7 days, 7 working days. Why? Because they're usually not relying on a buy-to-let loan. They have a bridging finance, which is a quick short-term loan, or they have their own cash that they're going to be buying these properties. We've got another question that's come in. What's the best property to target? The best property always to target is going to be your 2 to 3 bedroom houses. Why? Because your simple chimney pots have tons of demand. Tons of demand. So 2 to 3 bedroom houses. Do you want to get really pretty houses? No, unless it's for brand new investors that are completely new. And yeah, but usually that's not going to be the case. So what you're going to do here with this specifically is any types of investors that you're working with will usually want some significant discount. If they're a new investor, you know, they would want to get some discount. So you're going to go for a 2 to 3 bedroom house. I like to, again, minimum you can do this with is £60,000 houses, you know, or £50,000 up to, you know, usually £275,000. Obviously exclude London. You can go a lot higher in London. And that's usually going to be the price range, okay? So that is your product that you're targeting. So for example, if you were selling bicycles, you would only sell a certain type of bicycle. If you were selling certain types of coffee, you'd only sell certain types of coffee. That's what you want to do. Why? Because our end buyers are out there. They're out there on social media, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on our database, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Gumtree, they're in the local area, they see your sign, they are with local estate agents, they might have buyers on their books looking for properties, and you can say, look, hey, are you open to charge a buying agent fee to your buyer for this great discount? And if they go, yeah, usually small independent agents will do that. Guess what? You've got agents working hard for you, bringing you buyers for your properties. It works wonders very, very, very well. End of the day, the bottom line is it comes down to this. Are you getting a deal? And a deal is very different. I remember my first ever deal I did, right? I agreed it, my first ever below market value deal I did. I had it, a sale agreed, a purchase option agreement signed at £75,000. I had a deal. I had an agreement of a seller that wanted to move quickly. This is money. This can make someone money. But what I did is I went out there on social media and cash buyers said 60. Some said freaking 45. I'm like, seriously? That's what they would buy it at. But then I changed my approach and basically I went fishing in a different pond and in a different pond and in a different pond. And guess what? I had an agent, had a local mum and pop buyer. He had 2 that were willing to pay 85,000. We split the difference of 10K, 5K down the middle. Okay. Any other questions? Please ask me, and I'll be able to answer any of them for you. Andrew says, I guess incentive for the seller and the buyer if you can offer it without charging any party fees. Absolutely, Andrew. So that's a great question. So the incentive for any motivated seller is this: speed and convenience. The ugly properties that they have, or they inherited, or the tenant trashed the place, or it's simply old, or something's happened, they cannot sell it, and an agent has wasted their time, and they're going to have to discount, and they're nervous about not selling it, or they are off market and they realize they're going to have to sell to an investor that will buy for cash because the property will likely not get a mortgage. The other case is a quick sale motivated seller that just wants to sell because they're going through a divorce, they're behind on their mortgage payments, they're a landlord that owns multiple properties, they've inherited a property, you know, they're just worried about the market's going to dip and they want to take their money and go. There's many, many, many different reasons of why someone would sell, and the incentive is we buy as is, and we will cover your legal fee for your solicitors. So there's no fees whatsoever. The incentive for the buyer is very, very simple, Andrew. They're going to make a lot of profit without doing any of the work. Just like they go to auction. Why do they love going to the auction? Because they go into the auction, they sit in there, they've got all the due diligence is done for them. They go view, they like the property, and they're going to bid. And they're going to bid at a number that works for them. Why? Not because they love properties and collecting them, because it's going to make them a profit, period. If I find a deal and I think it's good profit margin for a rental income and compared it in the market, says Yasmina, if I put the deal to Patterson's auction but don't have the 10%, how do I find these partners to do this? Well, with Patterson's, there's two ways to get paid. So Patterson's auction's referring, and they will pay you a finder's fee. That's very, very different. Okay, that's very, very different. But if you exchange on the sale and put it up with Patterson's, that's great. But we wouldn't usually use Patterson's there, Yasmina. What we would do is we would go to a physical auction, an auctioneer, and we would get them to do a physical auction, either on online auction, live auction, or a telephone auction, or actually a physical auction. You could use Patterson's and a couple of other auctions, you could, but the name of the game is speed, and we want to make sure that we figure out what's the up-and-coming auctions. You can use a local auction, or you can use a nationwide auction. Why? Because even if you've got a property up north, there's many investors in the north. Sorry, even if you've got a property up north, there's many southern investors looking for properties up north. So I hope that makes sense. But if you back-to-back the deal, meaning you've already got an investor lined up, you don't need to put down the 10% deposit at all with this business, because it exchanges simultaneously. I hope that makes sense. Andrew says, conversely, if you're co-sourcing, can you charge a fee to the seller and to the buyer? So when I co-source, I never, ever charge a fee to a motivated seller, ever. So I never charge a fee to a seller, ever. So that's the rule number one. Rule number two is, yes, you can charge a fee to the buyer. So let me visualize this out for you and give you an example. So if I go get my drawing here, oh my God, my drawings are so nice, aren't they? They're so beautiful. Don't steal them and post them all on eBay, please. So if I have a house here for £100,000, okay? The typical property sourcing is 2% fee, usually £3,000 minimum, usually. Okay, so max I'm ever going to get for this is £3,000. All right. So that's what I'm going to get. But let's just say that I had an agreement with the motivated seller at 90,000 because I'd done some haggling and I managed to get a good deal agreed. With a traditional way of property sourcing, is you're only going to get paid this no matter what. But with the back-to-back is you can get a double dip fee. So how does that actually work? Well, you're going to sign a fee agreement with the buyer anyway. Okay, so very simple. They sign your fee agreement, done, capiche, boom, done. All right, cool. They're happy, great. And then you're going to get the difference between 90 and 100,000, just like you went out there and purchased for 90. And then, for example, let's just say I'm the seller, Andrew. You bought my house for £100,000, okay? Then what you did is you went to Yasmina here in the group and you said, I'm selling this property for 100,000. Are you interested? Oh yeah, I'm interested. Are you happy to pay a finder's fee? Oh yeah, this deal works for me. The numbers stack. Okay, great. You'd get a difference, wouldn't you? Between what you bought it for and what you're reselling it for. In this case, you're a reseller, but you don't have to complete on the property. That's the beautiful thing of creative property investing and trading and flipping contracts. Any other questions that you have? I'm all ears and I'm here to help you. Where's the best way, the ways to find these deals? Great question. So you're in the mentoring. So here's what I recommend you do. Go to Drive and filter some areas that you want to pick and pick the needs modernization. Then go to 2 to 3 bedroom houses with a price tag of 50,000 to 275,000 pounds maximum. Make sure that you pick 2 to 3 bedroom houses, semi-detached and terrace houses. This is going to give you a pool of potential motivated sellers. What you could do to find motivation is you could toggle with the find properties at reduced, Give me properties that need modernization. Find me properties that need a quick sale. Find me probate properties. And you will have a pool of opportunities where you can reach out to the agents to get deals agreed. You can also market direct mail directly to them, which we do future trainings on this. I am creating right now a very special catalog of back-to-back training and letters and basically over-the-shoulder training on exactly back-to-back. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a catalog together of live calls. You know, every great things are coming in November for specifically back-to-back, how to back-to-back in the auction, the best auctions to use, examples, case studies, all of this great stuff. But this is where I would start. I hope that helps. If you agree a deal with an agent but don't have the seller's details, how does that work? Good question. I can't find investors. Where do I find this? All in the training there, Yasmina. There's a lot of training in school that will go over investors. There's tons on how to do that. And obviously I think you can reach out to the team as well and ask, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction to the training and the best ways to do that. But I would say when it comes to the agent, that's fine. Well, for example, forget about creative property. Screw creative property. Screw it. You're a buyer. How would you buy a house? You call an agent and go, I want to buy the piece of property. Okay, they're using their own solicitor. Okay, well, we will pay for the solicitor fees if they use our solicitor. That's the incentive. And if they still say no, no problem. Our solicitor deals with their solicitor, no problem at all. They coordinate the sale because agents are crap. They get out of the way, and then we are speaking solicitor to solicitor. The agent gets their fee from the seller. Don't worry about that. You just need to figure out the buyer and figure out the coordination of the sale and let the solicitors do their job. If you have an agent pass a motivated quick sale to you, can you still do back-to-back? I've just answered that question there, Andrew. Absolutely. Absolutely. It really doesn't matter. You can do it with an agent. The reason why you can do it is because a purchase is a purchase. So I can go to an agent right now and say, I want to buy this house for £100,000. And they will go, okay, great. You want to buy it. Okay. Do we have an agreement? Yes, we have an agreement. What will happen is the agent will go sold subject to contract, which basically means this isn't really sold, but we've got a potential buyer. Okay, great. Then what happens is the solicitor will speak with their solicitor, or they use one of our solicitors. A sale will be agreed. Then what we need to do is we need to line up a buyer, because the buyer is never, ever, ever, ever going to be speaking with the motivated seller ever, because they don't need to, because we're going to be selling them the property, because we're going to be owning the property. Even if it's for 5-10 minutes, we're going to be the one doing it. I'll give you an example. So a lot of people, a lot of large home buying companies, and we've done this many times, is what they will do is if you go to any auction house, okay, any auction, and please go do this, please do this for yourself. And I'll be doing exercises where you can actually do this and see it rather than me just telling you. But let's just say you buy a house for 100 and you exchange. Okay, you put down a £10,000 deposit. Now you are the legal owner. You have legal contractual rights to resell this property legally. So, and then you find someone, your next door neighbor or your friend, that goes, wow, I want to buy this property. This is a freaking great deal. Oh my God, I want it. And you go, well, it's 120,000. And they go, you know what? That's a good deal for me. Okay, great. How does the sale happen? A solicitor draws up the paperwork. They all sign it. They coordinate an exchange. And guess what? It's coordinated on the same day. £100,000 and 120,000, because you think, oh, but the property's already completed. No, it hasn't. The property has exchanged, but the completion date was a long stop completion. It's called a long stop. What that basically means is, hey, Stephen, I'm legally committed now to buy this piece of property. Okay, I'm legally committed. but I just need 60 days. We're likely going to get it done quicker, but I just need a bit more time. Is that okay? And then what you do is you line up a buyer. But in back-to-back, if you do it smartly, you already have a buyer lined up. Most home buying companies, what they do is they don't have the buyer lined up. A lot do, but some don't. So what they do, they don't have this person. So what they do is they go out to the auction house, where there's a ton of motivated, willing cash buyers that have the money. And then they take the difference. That's how it works. And the reason why auction works really well is because when the hammer goes down, they legally have to put 10% deposit and they have to complete within 28 days. So as long as you coordinate that sale, it can work very, very well. However, I don't recommend you do the auction flips for your first 1 or 2 deals. First, get a deal done with a normal investor, go through the process, and then when you're more comfortable, you can do the auction flips. Some of them, I've got to tell you this as well, is some of them what they do, not all the time, because some auctions won't allow it, but they buy a property at auction, okay, for 100 grand. And in a week or 2 or 3 weeks later, they sell it for 120,000 in another auction. They only put 10K down and they've literally just made a 20 grand profit within 2 to 3 weeks. It's the power of it. Happens every single day. Yeah, exactly. You exchange and you just basically say we just need 30 to 60 days to complete. I mean, the exchange and delay completion is usually 6 months. In this case, we call it like a long stop completion, which basically means instead of 2 to 3 weeks or 30 days, we just need, say, 60 days. And we kind of just frame it like that. At the end of the day, all they really care about is that property is exchanged so they can move on with their life and do what they need to do, pretty much, because at that point, it's legally binding. Any other questions that I can answer for you before we wrap up? Hi, Tom. Do we have access to the solicitors? Absolutely. We'll be doing more training on that next week about the power team involved to make sure that the sale is swift and smooth. Andrew says, if I have a fund who have to deploy funds, these would be good back to back as they don't rely on heavy discounts. Amazing, Andrew. Yes, we can do some of these together for sure. This works very, very well. At the end of the day, the key thing is figuring out what your buyer wants, because at the end of the day, like I kind of visualize this, at the end of the day, if you have a buyer that's looking for a house in Leeds that he can fix up and flip. Okay, great. Well, ask him what type of property he's looking at. Okay, great. What's his profit margin he's looking at? What's his profit margin? And also, what's his monies that he's looking to make? I'm looking to make 30 grand on a flip all in. All in, all in my money, all out, I want to make £30,000. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go into Drive and look at the analysis. I'm going to go to the calculator and I'm going to look to see what I need to offer at for him to make £30,000 profit. And I'm going to bring him that property with a simple PDF that I've done on Drive with all of the numbers, right? And if I can basically get a deal agreed for £40,000 profit, then I'm going to take the £10,000 difference. Obviously, if you have investors that have lower expectation of what they're looking for, then even better, because the better you negotiate, the better type of money that you can make. That's how that works. Every investor's different. They might be looking for 10 properties. I want to buy 10 or 20 properties. Okay. You want to buy 10 or 20 properties. Okay, great. Well, now I'm going to be looking for companies or landlords that are looking to offset and sell their property portfolio. Okay, great. Well, now I need to target these people, ask around, ask social media, ask people, hey, are other property sources, estate agents, do you have any portfolios that match XYZ criteria? Yep, I do. Get people working hard for you. That's the key thing. If you don't have people working hard for you, you'll work for an hour and you'll never move forward. Tell everyone what you do. Tell everyone. Keep telling it every single day. And you will have people working hard for you, because if you rely on yourself, you'll never get anything done. Any last questions before we wrap up? If you enjoyed tonight, have you got value from tonight's training? Give me a 1, give me a me if you have. We're working on a lot of back-to-back. Thank you, Yasmina. Great, it's helped you. So we're working on a lot of great back-to-back training. This is how simple this is. We will be also posting the PDF and slides. So the PDF and slides and the recording will be posted in the academy that you can go back over and understand how it works. So I recommend with these trainings, go back over them, understand them. That's key. And yeah, that's basically it. So go back over it. It's very, very simple. Very, very simple. It's a very, very, very simple method. Here's what I want to leave you with, guys. If you buy a house for £100,000, forget creative property. Forget you ever met me. F it all, screw it all. You buy a house for 100 grand from your friend, and you've got another friend that is an investor that would buy it from 120. You buy it and then you resell it. You let the solicitors do what they need to do. And you do that within 30 days. Or you actually say, you know what? Solicitors, can you coordinate this on the same day? Because that's how solicitors work. They basically pre-agree on a sale date. That's how it works. Quite simple. And if solicitors have done it before, they've done it before, they know how it works. And everyone's cool with that because they just want to get their house sold. Well, if you did it that way, you wouldn't need to even buy the property for 100 and then resell it to your friend for 120. Because the contracts would simultaneously exchange. So immediately, your friend would take your place. So I'm buying this piece of property for 100, but then my friend wants to buy it for 120. Okay, great. All the agreements get set up. It exchanges on Friday at 3 p.m. All the money is transferred from my friend that's going to be the buyer. And then it exchanges. The deposit comes in. The solicitor pays the deposit over to the seller. I'm out of the deal. And I've got the difference of what I agreed on the contract, which was 100, and what my friend paid me for 120. I've got the difference. The key thing, just like when you're in a plane, you don't ask the pilot how all of the buttons work. You just let the pilot get you from point A to point B, and you trust in the pilot. It's trusting in the solicitors that have done this day in, day out, and it's understanding the basic process of this. I'll draw it out one last time. There's the basic process of A and B, which is you, motivated seller, owns a piece of property, needs to sell quick. You are the property sourcer. You've agreed a great deal at 100K. You found a buyer that was called to buy it for 110. The contract here is drawn up. Simultaneously, the contract is drawn up and they buy it for 110K, don't they? They're matched up together. You take the £10,000 fee. The seller doesn't even know. They don't care. They've got their money. And because you're a good business person, because you understand property, because you're educated and you're being a professional, you get paid that difference for being a good deal maker. Happens thousands of times a year. Beautiful, beautiful method. And I hope this helped. And I can't wait to help you get a couple of deals across the line very, very soon. Beautiful. Take care, guys. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Take it easy. Good night.